Hey everyone, welcome back to All the Mods 7 to the Sky. Last time we implemented Applied Energistics P2P and got some basic auto crafting up and running. We also connected the rest of our base with the AE networks, connecting all of the external storage that we have. And we got some automation set up here for lava and obsidian. The original plan for this episode was to work on some more tech and get some ore processing done for the output of these sieves. However, we have been doing a lot of tech recently and there are several magic mods in this pack too. Main one I want to check out today is Botania. If we look at the recipe for the ATM star, our goal for the pack, this does require a fair bit of Botania. There is 2 runes here, and even if you just briefly peek the recipe at some of these runes here, it's going to require the automation of a lot of different materials to get all of this to come together. So yeah, not sure exactly where this adventure is going to take us today, but I think it should be fun. Let's start some magic mods, let's do some Botania. But first, we crafted up this jetpack last episode in order to get creative flight. Almost creative flight, there's a really decent hover mode on this thing. And I received several comments reminding me that we could actually get wireless charging for this thing. If we make a flux controller, we should be able to set our network. And there's a tab up here for wireless charging somewhere. And that should keep our jetpack permanently full, so long as the reactor over there is still producing power. This used to be quite laggy on older versions of the game. I don't know if that's still the case or not, but yeah, I guess we keep it for now. If it works, it's going to be really nice not having to charge the jetpack ever. Alright, so where do we begin here with Botania? I think Divine Journey 2 was the last time I played this mod. No doubt there's been some changes. So we got our Lexica Botania here. This is going to be our best friend for today. Oh yeah, that's right, we also have this add-on mod called Mythic Botany. That's some pretty cool stuff from what I can see here. But yeah, I guess the first thing we have to concern ourselves with is mana generation. We can worry about all of the mod-specific crafting at a later stage. To do any of that though, we do need a source of mana. Botania is a tech mod, huh? You heard it here first. Anyways, I've probably just sparked a huge debate in the comments now. But I want to take you through my thought process here. This is a little bit unusual. Again, you show up here if... This guy's always following me. Oh my goodness, he sells a beacon. Anyways, I want to try something that I've never done to generate mana. No TNT dupes here. I want to take the creative option, and I'm leaning towards the Spectrolus. The Spectrolus is a flower that's particularly fond of the various hues of wool. It'll consume any and all wool blocks dropped nearby and convert them into mana. Giving it 1 white wool looks like it gives it a small portion of mana here. However, after we give it the white, it does require orange. And after we give it orange, it requires magenta. And I think then it just cycles all the way through the spectrum of wool. After magenta, it would be light blue, yellow, lime, etc. So I think this could be a pretty fun way to generate mana. It does mean that we'll have to generate all 16 different types of wool though. And then somehow drop them in sequence to generate our mana from this flower. So let's break this down, shall we? Step 1 is to get our hands on wool. The way that we're going to do that is with the use of a loot fabricator with the sheep prediction matrix from hostile neural networks. This can give us 8 wool at a time. To get the sheep prediction, we have to use a simulation chamber. Let's make use of our Applied Energistics auto crafting here and encode the recipe for a lot of this stuff. We'll be using these simulation chambers quite a bit in the future. And to go along with the simulation chamber, we need a loot fabricator, which, oh wow, this takes netherite. Let's get a recipe for it. Alright, so as you can see here, it does say that we need a data model for this. And to get wool, we could use the sheep prediction, or we could use spider and get string and then craft it that way. The spider one gives us 32 at a time, which will craft into 8 wool, so really, actually, I think the sheep is more efficient since we cut out a crafting step. So if things haven't changed, we still need a deep learner. Yeah, and a blank data model. I guess it's not called that anymore. A model framework. Yeah, a lot of this stuff has changed names since 1.12. Making a grass platform for passive mobs to spawn is definitely something we should have done earlier on. But since that's not something we have, I think I might have a better solution. If we can get our hands on some flowers here. Wait a second, is it because we're in mushroom fields? Is that why we're not getting any? That could be a problem. Perhaps this works with saplings? I've never tried it this way. I guess that answers our question. No way. We spawn in the boss arena? I didn't even know that was possible. Okay, hello Naga. Let's mark the portal. We'll come back for this guy later, I guess. So yeah, the Twilight Forest. It really shouldn't be too difficult to find some sheep here. These ones are bighorn sheep. I don't know if these count the same way. Oh, you have to right click on it. Yeah. Right click? It doesn't work. We need vanilla sheep. It feels a lot more dark here, right? It feels a lot more Twilight. And you know, it might not be such a bad idea to start picking up some of these Botania flowers. Yeah, these should help us later on when we go to progress. There's magenta, there's grey, light blue. You're not the right sheep. I really hope these guys actually exist here. I noticed that the first quest in Botania gives us the flower pouch. Yeah, awesome. It should make it pretty easy to collect all of these things. A lot of these are actually mushrooms, which do not go in the flower pouch, unsurprisingly. Wait a minute, I've been flying around for like the past 10 minutes and it suddenly hit me. What if we use this thing? This should allow us to transform these sheep, right? If we can actually hit them. Uh-oh. Why does it not work? It used to work. Ah, sheep. There we go, we got our sheep prediction, or our sheep data model. Yeah, you gotta have something with EMC in your inventory to use as fuel. Alright, so now that we got that, you can see that it starts at faulty tier. And to level it up, we need to have this in our inventory and then sacrifice a bunch of these sheep. Yeah, it is random which mob it gives you. Oh, that's a slime. Hey, you know what? We need slime balls. I'll take this guy. Alright, we got a bunch more sheep kills. We're finally at basic tier. Basic tier is all we need to get started. Alright, so we are back at the... Oh my goodness, I look sick. Those goggles do not suit me at all. That's better. Yeah, so I want to pick up the pace here a little bit on this video. We've got a lot to get through to get this done. I've started this simulation chamber with the sheep model inside. We need to give it this prediction matrix to fuel it, basically. I'm just going to batch craft this for now. We have an input drawer. And this is just going to be here leveling up while we prepare an area for Botania. So I'm thinking that we put Botania in this area here. I'm going to go down a few levels as well, a few blocks. And I suppose we'll also need an area for hostile neural networks. I think we're going to have that separate to Botania though. I'm thinking probably over the opposite end of the base. So yeah, let me prepare some space to work in and we'll get started here. I was in the groove right there. This thing came together very, very smoothly. But I don't really know how to progress. I don't really know what the space requirements are going to be. I have a rough idea, but I think we should stop and progress a little bit through Botania. And the quest here mentions the pure daisy. Let's automate the pure daisy. So we start with our Petal Apothecary here. The Petal Apothecary is also something that we have to automate, although I would like to use the open crate to do it. And I think the open... Yeah, it takes living wood, which we have to make with the pure daisy. So we have to craft the pure daisy first. We need white flowers for this. Did we gather any of those? We did. I think it's just 4 petals and a seed. Gives us the pure daisy. There's one. And daisy number 2. Nice. So these guys have an influence area of 1 block next to them. And whenever we put stone or logs, there's a few other recipes, but these are the only 2 ones that we have to automate. After 60 seconds, this is going to turn into living rock. Yes, exactly. Just like that. So to automate this, we need to first place regular stone, and then have some way to gather the living rock. Same thing goes for the living wood, we just have to use logs instead. So again, there's a few different options I think that we have for this. We could use integrated dynamics, we could use applied energistics, I think maybe we could even use XNet. Although I'm not sure XNet has the functionality to place blocks. So yeah, let's just go with applied energistics, using the formation plane and the annihilation plane. We'll need 16 of each, and this requires us to use more subnets. Oh, and you know what? We're going to have to run quite a long AE cable to get over to the new area of the base. And we are out of wool. Although coincidentally, our sheep simulator here is... Sheep simulator. The sheep data model is at 60% accuracy, and we've got a couple of sheep predictions here. So we can use this to fabricate the first pieces of wool. Easy. And we can use this for our cable. Okay, so we are now connected via P2P to our main network. That is this main line coming in here, and what we're going to do here is have an interface, and this is what's going to supply the stone and the oak logs. And from here we have to be careful how we wire this. This is going to be 2 different subnets. So one side is going to get an item pipe, and this is going to get a filter for stone. I think I have the wrong filter here. I think I need the bigger upgrade. The upgraded upgrade. Okay, yeah, I thought it was going to be the advanced pipe upgrade. I have no idea why the filters aren't being obeyed here. I don't know, we should have it on whitelist here for oak logs, right? But somehow it's still accepting stone. And same for this interface here. So instead of having 1 down here to supply the items, we're instead just going to split them up and have 1 to supply stone and 1 to supply logs. That way there's no need for any filters. Oh, and it's also just occurred to me that we don't have stone automated either. But we can fix that later on. So next all we want to do is place down the stone. That's going to be done with the formation planes. And we want to make sure this is filtered. And now, because we have 9 devices technically on this network, we're going to have the interface and then 8 formation planes. We need to include an ME controller. Without it, you can only have 8 devices on the one network. So the controller we place here, and a cable behind to connect them all together. And now we have to give this network here power. We can do that by hooking it up to our main net here, but we have to make sure that we add in a quartz fiber, so that only the power is transferred and not the channels. Oh, it's already placed it. Perfect. Yeah, so it took the stone from the existing subnet interface here and placed it in the world. It's going to turn into living rock, and then we have to pick that up with the annihilation planes. And again, we have to make sure this is on a separate network. The annihilation planes only work if there's somewhere for the stone to be stored. And this time we're actually going to use ME chests. I've never done it this way before, but I want to see if this works. We'll use 1k ME storage for this, but to make sure that we only pick up living rock, we can use a cell workbench and filter the storage cell here to only accept living rock inside. And then for this one, we have another 9 channels, which means we need a second controller here. So we can quartz fiber from this one, place the other controller above, and then we have to hook up our storage here, which is going to be placed right here, with the partitioned storage cell inside. Aha, it works. Yeah, so we can see here there's 9 bytes in use, which is the 9 living rock. Now we just have to hook that up to our main network and expose the contents of this ME chest, which we can do with a storage bus, I think. And now we have to be careful we don't connect our main network to the subnets, so we definitely want to put anchors on all of these blocks right here. Although actually we have to move the position of this quartz fiber. This has to be down here, as we need access to the channels on this cable here. And just for good measure, we'll also filter the storage bus here to living rock only. So now when we check our main ME system, we should see living rock in there. There isn't any, and you know what, I think it's because we can't put a storage bus directly on an ME chest. I don't use these things very often, so I think to get around that, we can switch this out, or rather just add an ME interface, and place the storage bus on there instead. Now we should see, yes, perfect. Awesome. Yeah, so now we just repeat the exact same thing on the other side for living wood. Yeah, something like this. There's one more addition I want to add to this though. The 1k ME storage cells can hold probably more than we want to buffer, so to make sure we don't overuse stone or wood, I'm going to add 2 level emitters right here. These point into the item pipes, which extract the stone and the logs from the main net. And we now want this on redstone on when powered, so that it only extracts with a redstone signal. And I've also limited these interfaces to only accept 1 slot of stone and logs. The rest is just filled with dummy items. But because we have filtered the formation planes, it should only place the appropriate items here. And then we want the level emitters to only emit when we have less than, we'll say less than 1024 living rock. Yeah, emit when levels are below 1024 living rock. And the same on this side for living wood. That way we have some form of stock control. Nice. Afterwards, I also added an extra igneous extruder, which is buffered in the drawers next to our terracotta. And I also threw down 1 more cobblestone generator, just to make sure that we have that buffered in a drawer somewhere. The trader also showed up, and we bagged this absolutely amazing deal. Anyways, moving swiftly onwards, I also automated the Petal Apothecary here. Very, very easy to automate once we have the open crate. The open crate will just automatically drop its contents that are piped into it, and we do that using a pattern provider from AE2. And you also have to make sure you fill this thing with water to get it to craft, and when it successfully completes the craft, it does empty out the apothecary. So to get around that, we have another player simulator. Oh, it's already waterlogged this. Yeah, the player simulator just right clicks with a water bucket, which actually grabs it from this depot here. Underneath the depot, we have just a regular integrated dynamics item interface. But because the bucket is never actually transferred to the player simulator, it just right clicks it while it's still on there. It means that we can have the spout constantly refill the bucket with water. And the water we get from this mechanical pump from Create. Tiny bit over-engineered, we probably could have gotten away with 1 machine, but that's a bit boring. Oh yeah, and one more habit I want to start getting into is to name the pattern providers. If I can spell apothecary, I think it's like that. And whenever you name the pattern provider, it should show up here differently in the pattern terminal. Yes. So before we can start messing with any wool or the Spectrolis, we have to actually be able to craft that thing, right? And we haven't had a look at the recipe yet, but yeah. We're going to need to get into some runes. We're going to have to get pixie dust, which means we need to trade with the elves. And both the runic altar and the elven trade both require some mana to be able to finish the craft. Which means we have to find a way of generating mana without the Spectrolis, and that is what the Endoflame is for. So I encoded the recipe here in the Petal Apothecary. I have a terminal here to be able to request it. And if we request this thing, it should throw in all the petals here and then the seed. And give us an Endoflame. And to go along with the Endoflame, we also need a mana pool and a mana spreader. We'll enable substitutions for this one. Let's make sure we get the living wood quest. Well, we're already 800 of each. Oh yeah, and I suppose we'll also need our wand of the forest. We need a living wood twig first. That's easy to make. And this can be any color you want. I'm going to make orange because orange best color. Actually, you know what? We'll do an orange and blue. Yeah, this way. So this Endoflame right now is going to be completely awful. It is the worst way to generate mana, but it's also the easiest, right? So there's a bit of a trade-off. I think we can link this with the Wand of the Forest, and then link the mana spreader to the mana pool. The Endoflame will burn any burnables, any furnace fuel, so we're just going to use our charcoal and coal here. We have an abundance of both of these resources. Wait a second, is it actually? Yes, we're getting our first piece of mana. Nice. And because mana takes so long to generate this way with the Endoflame, I've set up a few more on the opposite side. We need to build up quite a big mana buffer to get all of this kick-started. And we need one more Endoflame, I think. That's so satisfying. There we go. And in the meantime, we're going to come back to this wool problem. So right now with this simulation chamber, it still has to find a proper home. But as you may have noticed, we only get white wool from this, and we need all, well, 15 extra different colours. And again, there is the easy option, there's mystical agriculture. We could potentially invest in this and make dye seeds. That's going to give us dye essence, and from the dye essence we can get any type of dye we want to craft. But you know, doing it the easy way is not always the best way. So instead we're going to set up the Jaded Amaranthus. It's going to be quite the investment here up front. We do need some mana to get this started. And we also have to gather a few materials here. First of which being nether wart. How do we get nether wart? You know what, we can get nether wart from the market, I think. We'll buy a few, we have a lot of emeralds. We also need some grass, which we can craft. We'll use that for the redstone root. We need a fishing rod. Actually, let's add a pattern for this one. We're going to need some nether brick. And I think I'm just going to steal from the Civ setups over here. We got some regular nether rack in the crusher. We can throw this through the furnace for nether bricks, which by the way are now powered by RF. Finally. No more manually filling coal in these things. I would like to try and get a lot of these runes fully automated. One of the input items we need is wheat. So to make this happen, I'm going to craft an ender chest. We do need blaze rods, which I think we can actually craft from nether prediction. 4 overworld and a nether rack should give us the nether one. The overworld we're getting from our sheep here. We can also craft bones this way with some bone meal, and then use the bones and the nether prediction for blaze rods, and use the blaze rods for an ender chest. 2 ender chests. And I want these things to be able to modify this beetroot farm. We really don't need all of this crop space for red dye. So we're going to switch one side out with wheat seeds, and where this portable storage interface meets the other end, it currently goes into 2 drawers, one of which is an ender drawer for the beetroot to craft red dye, the other one is for beetroot seeds. However, I'm going to change this just to clean up the setup a little bit, and we're going to put this instead into an ender chest. No way, this guy shows up again! He sells the Tome of Shadows. I have no idea what this thing is. Let's buy it. But yeah, the other side of the ender chest I'm going to put in the middle here, triple red to match the other, and that way we can put all of the farm outputs on the one drawer network here. So the beetroot seeds, the ender drawer with the beetroot itself, and we'll have to filter this actually on the storage controller, and we'll need 2 more drawers here, one for wheat and one for wheat seeds. And then finally lock the drawers and link them all up. Those llamas back there are having a very hard time. I think they're getting sawed up by this thing. Who knows what's going on. Link them up to the controller and void upgrades on the drawers too. Okay, so now what we're missing is a couple of petals. I think these can be any saplings. Oh, sugarcane. I wonder where we're going to get sugarcane from. This could be a bit challenging. How many do you think we're going to get from this? It's raining sugar. It keeps going. Oh my goodness, look at this. Over 2 stacks, wow. And there's also our mana items. Oh, hello. Are you friendly? I guess so. I have never seen these guys before. There's 2 of them. Yeah, there's also our mana items. We can drop diamonds for mana diamonds. We can drop pearls for mana pearls. And we can drop iron for mana steel. Wait a second, there is also mana dust. Or what is it called? Mana powder? It looks like we can use almost any dust for that, so I think we're going to use gunpowder. We have a lot of this. Yeah, mana powder. The extra Botania flowers, we could go hunt the Twilight Forest, but there is also the floral fertilizer. It's like bone meal, but it will spawn Botania flowers, similar to what the effect of the Jaded Amaranthus will do for us. And from here we can shapeless craft into petals, and then shapeless craft again into dye. So you can probably guess where this is going to go. The Jaded Amaranthus will take mana, so a small portion of our mana generation from the Spectralis will have to go to generating more dyes. And then we have to also come up with a collection method. But yeah, first of all, let's actually craft this thing. I guess these guys live in our Botania area now. Ars Nouveau it looks like they come from. Never ever messed with Ars. But we are going to play with it in this pack, so I'm looking forward to that. So I'm hoping by now that we have enough mana built up, I'm going to add a recipe for the Jaded Amaranthus, take out the Petal Apothecary of course, and we want to make sure we add a seed. We also want to make sure it's the last item, since everything else has to be added first, and Applied Energistics sends items left to right, top to bottom in the pattern encoding screen. So this thing goes into our Petal Apothecary provider, and we'll also have to make some patterns here for the runes in the Runic altar. I think we can also shift click this, take out the Runic altar itself, and similar to the Apothecary, this needs a living rock to complete the craft, like the seed. So that was the rune of spring, we need the rune of fire, and the living rock, and also the rune of water. So right now we don't have the Runic altar fully automated yet. In fact, I just crafted this thing, but to make it easier for ourselves, we can still encode the recipes, and we can just have the pattern provider go into a chest for us, like so. There is some cable back here, we just have some facades. So yeah, assuming we have everything, we should be able to request, for example, a rune of water, and it should dump everything in this chest for us, perfect. Then we can come over to the Runic altar and click everything on. It's going to start floating around, and this is always such a cool part of Botania. Once it has a valid recipe, it's going to look for mana, so we have to add another mana spreader here. I believe we can also transport mana with sparks, but we'll look at that later on. For now, we'll just keep using mana spreaders. So if you put a mana spreader above a mana pool, it automatically pulls mana from the pool below, and then we can just link the mana spreader to the Runic altar. It's going to slowly fill the bar on the right, and once it does, it's going to look for the living rock. Hit it with the wand of the forest. Very, very loud noise. And we have a rune of war. Exact same thing for the rune of, what was it, fire and spring. Let's request those as well. And now we should be able to request our Jaded Amaranthus. Awesome. Actually, let's not place it here. It's gonna make a mess. So according to the wiki, this thing has a radius of a 9x9. So I think the Spectrolus is gonna go right here. That was the original plan, and I think we're gonna have our dye generation over in this side, so we need to create some extra space. Something just like this, and it's only been like a minute or two, and already look at all of these flowers. This is amazing. So the Jaded Amaranthus is in the middle. It has a 10 block radius where it searches for mana pools to be linked to. And for right now, I've just added an extra endoflame to be able to supply this pool with mana. So now we have to look at our collection method for all these flowers, right? I tested to make sure that this accumulator underneath, directly underneath the Jaded Amaranthus, can actually pick up everything. We'll definitely have to add an item filler to this, but for now we have to make sure we can actually break the flowers. When I was prototyping some ideas for this, the first thought I had was a shifting floor design like in vanilla, but this is modded, right? There's way more things to play with, so I think we're gonna go with the Drum of the Wild. We'll keep with the Botania theme. It does mean that we need a pasture seed, which we can throw grass in a mana pool for, and please tell me we have some leather. I think we do. Yep, there's the Horn of the Wild. I don't know if that's a quest. And the Drum of the Wild. It looks like we did have the leather. Okay. So with this thing, this also takes mana. But note that the drum does not store mana. Thus, to trigger it, you need a pulse mana spreader or a mana blaster. Or in other words, we basically have to send a mana pulse. Lots of mana being used, but let's make some mana glass. With this, we can make a hovering hourglass, which is basically just Botania's timer. I think we actually need some sand for this to function. And we'll also invest in the Pulse Mana Spread. Oh, this is very cheap. Yeah, the Pulse Mana Spreader, which the Lexica Botania recommended. So I'm thinking that we use the same mana pool here. The Jaded Amaranthus just has to be linked with the Wand of the Forest. It magically links to this mana pool, so to say. So the Pulse Mana Spreader, I believe we can place above, and we know that it will pull from the mana pool below. The Drum of the Wild we can put above the Jaded Amaranthus, and then make sure the Pulse Mana Spreader fires into this thing. Then to get this to pulse, we need to give it a redstone signal. We can do that with our hourglass here. And depending on how much sand you give it, extends the length of time before it pulses the block next to it. I'm going to start with 8, just to see how that feels. Does it work? It works! Awesome. Okay, so we need to mess with the timing a little bit. Oh, that is so cool. Yeah, the timing could probably be extended. It's just because we had a lot of flowers here already buffered. Oh, that is so awesome. Okay, let's stop it for now. Yeah, so now with the flowers, we need to double craft them. We need to craft them into petals and then craft them into dye. So what we are going to do here is make some space on the left and right sides. Conveniently, this is 17 blocks long and we need 16 blocks of crafters for the 16 different colors of wool. Oh, I did not want to do that. No! Is there a want oops in this? No, I guess that's from a different mod. Oh my goodness, we need to break all this. Okay, so from the accumulator, we're going to use 2 ender chests. Item pipe to connect the 2 blocks together. I think we'll definitely need an upgrade for this. Then we want to make sure that we arrange our crafters here. Yeah, something like this. Actually, no, not something like this. We're going to have the gap slightly off-centered because it's an even number of crafters. There's 16 here. Yeah, we'll have a group of 6 and a group of 9. So that's going to link up with the ender chest. White, orange, white. And we're going to use XNet to transport all of this around. Wait a second, not a group of 9 and 6. A group of 9 and 7. That's a controller. Yeah, that should make 16. Quick maths. Now we gotta do some pretty tedious filtering. We have to make sure that a flower gets its own crafter. So we need connectors on the controller and connectors on all of these crafters right here. And we should be able to use XNet's inbuilt filters to be able to send items where we need it to go. We gotta make sure we power the network as well. We can do that with a flux point. And also distribute power to all of these crafters, right? They all take RF. Copy, paste, paste. Oh, no, we're not starting that again. Not this episode. We've got a lot of filtering to do here. Yeah, it looks like we can filter the insertion, which is something I wasn't sure about. I didn't know if it was only the extract you could filter. It looks like here we can give each of these crafters their own flower, which is great. To make sure the crafters don't overfill, I'm going to fill some of the slots here with cobblestone. And I gotta ask you guys how we turn this thing off. Like, do we just let this thing keep running and maybe add some sort of a trash can as overflow for the flowers? The only thing with that is it does cost mana, so maybe there's some level limit or trickery we can do. But I still haven't figured that one out, honestly. What happens when all of these crafters fill up with flowers? There is a way, I just haven't thought about it long enough. When all else fails, rely on storage drawers. So yeah, I think I got this figured out actually. I'm just in the last stages of setting all the recipes up here. So we got light blue. Then black. It seems like we're working with dye quite a lot, right? I mean, we already have a source of black dye, but just for consistency, right? We have black, white, and red already at our block factory. But yeah, just to keep it consistent, we'll craft all the flowers into dye. Yeah, so what I basically changed here on the XNet controller is instead of going directly from the ender chest into all the crafters, we first go from the ender chest into the storage controller, the drawer controller here, and then from the drawer controller into the crafter, which crafts the black flower into black petals, for example. The black petals then go back to the drawer controller, stored in the same drawer. Whenever you give the items to the storage controller and they're all linked together, it will go automatically into their correct drawer space. And then for the last time, we go from the drawer controller and back into the crafter above it, which crafts the black petal into the black dye. Then from the crafter, we go back to the storage controller, and that buffers the black dye itself. And doing it this way means that we can have void upgrades on all of these drawers, although I think I'm going to hold off on that. Implementing drawer networks here means that we can also put a storage bus on this for our AE network, and that means we have all of the dyes to craft with. Just got to make sure we hook up an AE connection. Oh, I don't think we're going to have enough cable. We're like 3 short. And the colours of dye now should show up in our applied energistic system, which they now do. Awesome. Oh yeah, I forgot we were making grey dye too. So the next steps is to permanently set up the simulation chamber, fabricate the wool, and then we'll need to have another set of crafters to craft the dye together with the wool to give us all 16 different types, and then drop that on the spectroless. However, I think that's something for next episode. We still have to trade with the elves to be able to actually craft the thing, right? We still need pixie dust. And I don't know if we've built up enough here to open the portal. Oops. It does require quite a bit of mana. I don't know if the configs have been changed or not. But yeah, I think that's something we'll look into next time. Thank you guys so much if you made it all the way to the end of this video. I know it was a lot today. There was quite a lot of complex AE wiring and whatnot, but it's fun. I like this part of the game. This is what brings me back to modded, like setting up all of this stuff, all the filters and whatnot. Playing with tech mods, I mean magic mods. Anyways, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time for some more All the Mod 7 to the Sky.